The Sandy and Toddcast is a Mind Garden Media podcast in association with
Screw You, Todd
Productions. Time for another Sandy and Toddcast. So that's why Sandy and I are getting together.
Yeah, that's right. Otherwise, we don't ever talk to each other ever, Todd.
Ever. We don't communicate. Nothing ever happens.
This is going to be quite the episode, part one of our interview with the amazing Jason Offutt.
It was, I could have done like hours and hours with him. I know that he's going to be a guest on this show again.
Without a doubt. I would have him over for dinner once a week if it was humanly possible.
Well, and if it was humane, because I'm not sure he'd like your cooking. Season 4, episode
not. 4.
He is our Leonard Nemoy. This is In Search of Jason Offutt. It's next on the Sandy and Toddcast.
I'm Vicki Hackbarth, owner of Chakra Awakening, LLC. I'm a certified Reiki master providing services which include past life karma clearing. Karma from your past lives affect you today. Karma is the memory of our souls, which often stem from prior lives. What we didn't finish then, we come back to finish now. Unpleasant situations are the consequence of lingering karma, which can be reversed and resolved. I can help you clear the past life karma carried over from former lifetimes. For more information, find me on Facebook at Chakra Awakening, LLC.
Broadcasting from two very different yet magical places not found on any map. Get ready to discuss the strange, weird, ghostly, crazy, spooky, and odd things that take place around us each and every day. All while having a little bit of fun. This is the Sandy and Toddcast.
Season 4, episode 4. He is our Leonard Nemoy in search of Jason Offutt. It's going to be a good episode today.
He sure is our Leonard Nemoy. Wow, what a great guy and what a great person to talk to about everything under the sun. Not just paranormal, not just cryptozoology, just everything. We had such a great discussion with Jason. Todd, I'm just really excited to have him with us.
And we really hit it off well. I think that his way of thinking is very similar to ours, like where certain things excite him. He questions certain things.
Yeah.
I just really liked his personality. It was very easy to chat with him.
You know, there's something really, really cool about like-minded, passionate people getting together and having a conversation. And this was one of those conversations where everything just came together and really, really clicked. And I have to say, he's one of my favorite interviews ever.
Here's the thing. I don't normally get into like a lot of the stuff that he gets into. I normally don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bigfoot, yeah, it's interesting. You know, aliens, yeah, it's interesting. But it's not something where I go, oh, I've got to talk about it or whatever. He made talking about this stuff really interesting because he kind of brought it into perspective from the way I look at it, which I really, really appreciated.
Yeah, he takes a very common sense approach to everything. He's not the kind of person that just believes in everything for the sake of believing in it. And it's so healthy to have a skeptical outlook on things.
Yeah.
There's such a good balance of being open-minded to the possibility, but skeptical enough to look at things from the common sense perspective. And that's what he does. And that's what we do.
So we talked to him like last week and we had this conversation and then we're going to make 2 episodes out of it. This one and the next one. So you're going to get 2 Sandy and Toddcast with Jason in it. I've got a couple things I've got to do today. One of the things I have to do is get the precursor to the audio you're about to listen to. Because if we'll remember, I think on the last Sandy and Toddcast, we mentioned about your technology issues.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about that. Well, it came to a head the night of this of this interview.
Oh my God. If anything could go wrong that night, it went wrong for me that night.
Sandy was having like the worst day of her life that day. And to the normal person, it'd be like, no big deal. But to Sandy, by the time I can't tell you how many times she burst into tears before we did the interview, but it was several.
It was, but you know me so well now, and you know you go with the flow
So
every
what did
time.
I do? So what did I do? I just backed up slowly.
Yep. You let me freak out. But there were so many things going on. It was just a really rough day. Like, I was very emotional to begin with. Ladies, you would understand that.
Oh, it was her time of the month. She made the announcement earlier in the week. It was her time of the month. I should have known that.
You actually have it on the calendar, so you know how to deal with me. But it was just everything came together, the perfect storm, and I just lost my mind. I was having so many issues with computers.
We ended up getting it all worked out. And Jason was having problems getting into our software. I mean, everything was happening. And I thought, well, this thing's not going to happen. And then Jason comes on and we find out that he's not even at home. He's like out in LA. We can't talk about why he's out there, but there might be something cool coming very soon for him.
Yeah.
And so he's in a hotel room and he didn't have his equipment to do the interview. So we're like, I don't know what this is going to turn out to be. And it turned out, as we mentioned earlier several times, just a great, fun interview. But prior to it, I would have bet a whole paycheck that it wasn't going to happen, that somehow we were going to have to cancel because Sandy, you know.
I was yelling at you. I was yelling at Dave. I was just like frantically, and luckily I'm in some ways, not in a lot of ways, but in some ways I'm kind of a pack rat. So even though I have all of this expensive equipment, I have over the past like year or so purchased all of this quote backup stuff for myself, which luckily worked out that night because I'm pulling out microphones, I'm pulling out webcams and holders, I'm pulling out everything under the sun to try and get this to work. I made Dave bring my work laptop upstairs for me to try my work laptop. It was just, you should have seen the mess that was in this studio by the time we were done. But
you should have saw the mess really that funny. She was when it was all said and done.
Yeah, I was a mess. But you know what was funny is that once we started talking, like that all melted away.
Yep.
And we were just having a conversation. It wasn't even an interview. We were just having a conversation.
Yeah. And those are the best when you're not trying to find something to ask about because there's just so much stuff that you can naturally wonder about.
And one of the funny things was when you said to me after the fact, you said, you know, you two were talking about things I didn't even know what you were talking about, but it was still really cool.
The Skinwalker Ranch or something like that.
Skinwalker Ranch. That's been a huge interest of mine for many years now. And it was great to know that he was aware of it and, you know, had ideas of what's going on there too. So
sounds like something that nobody wants to encounter.
You know, me with these Native American legends and their thought process and their way of life. I love that. And skinwalkers are a big part of the Native American heritage. So
I thought you were going to say skinwalkers are a big part of my life. And I was going to say, oh, well.
No, they're not. They're not. I swear. So
I do have something else that's kind of special. And I know there's stuff you want to talk about. Maybe we can talk about it afterward or whatever.
Yeah,
but it's a kind of a special weekend. And so I reached out to a friend of mine who ties into the Leonard Nemoy and Star Trek kind of thing as well, William Shatner. And I got him to do a little something special for you.
Oh, no.
So here it is.
I'm William Shatner. I've done a lot of things in my career, but this takes the cake. This is so cool. You, Cassandra, today, it's all about you. You were born today. It's your birthday. It's exciting. It makes me want to celebrate. Makes me want to get out of this chair. Makes me want to sing. Makes me want to dance. Makes me want to shout. Kick my heels up. Throw my hands up. Toss my head back. No, really, people should be shouting your name in the street.
Come on now. Sing that name.
Sing that song. Sing it out loud. I want to celebrate. Put it up in lights.
It's your birthday. Happy birthday.
See, no one else deserves to be celebrated like you because you are the best.
I want you to know.
I want you to know.
Said I want you to know.
I want you to know right now you make me want to shout. That's right, you make me want to shout because there really is no doubt. You know what I'm talking about because you make me want to shout. Yeah! Yeah! You make me want to.
There you go.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. I don't even know how you did that. But
Literally, just as we were getting on, I'm like, okay, I'm going to search for happy birthday Cassandra. And that's the first thing that came up. I'm like, I don't even know what it sounds like. I've got to use it.
that was perfect. William Shatner, for God's sake.
Speak singing to you.
Thank you. I love you. That just made my day completely. That was hilarious. Thank you so much.
Cassandra.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's where I got my name and time. Remember that? Remember that podcast?
Oh my gosh, that's great. Thank you. I love you. Yeah, my birthday is today. My birthday's today, the big 5-1. And then yours is coming up very, very soon.
Yeah.
And you're older than me.
Yeah. By by a year, basically.
Yeah, by a year, almost exactly by a year. So, yeah, it's funny how we met and everything. And we just kind of like have so many kind of parallels and stuff.
Except I'm not into skinwalkers like you are.
No, but you will be. Give it some time. It's only been a couple years. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I thought that would work out quite well for the podcast.
That's really good. Thank you.
Now we'll be sued by Leonard Nemoy for using his name in the title, and we'll be sued by William Shatner for using his song in the podcast. It'll be perfect.
That's right. It'll be perfect. It's this will never go off the way we want it to. It's okay.
That's fine. Nobody will ever hear it because we'll have to cease and desist. But
exactly. So, yeah, you ready to get on with Jason Offutt?
Yeah.
He's an author. He's done, I think he said 16 different books. He has appeared at many, many different paracons and done so many lectures. And he's just an all-around great guy, very knowledgeable. I do have his book, Chasing American Monsters. And it's a great book because he breaks it down into the different states in the United States and the biggest legends and lore in each state. And I just love that. And he also grew up in a haunted house.
Yeah, that's where his interest started.
Yeah. So, and he almost seemed to downplay it a little bit, which I thought was interesting. But you'll hear all about that coming up. So, ladies and gentlemen, we give you part 1 of our interview with the Jason Offutt.
This is season 4, episode 4. He is our Leonard Nemoy in search of Jason Offutt. Let's start chatting because one of the first things, looking at your bio, looking at all these great books that you've written, one of the first things, to be honest with you, because of my background, the first thing that stands out is the fact that you grew up in a quote unquote haunted house. So can you take us back a few years and tell us about your experiences there? Like what was going on with you?
A few years. Yeah. A few. I was probably about 8 years old, maybe 9. The house I grew up in was a two-room schoolhouse. And my grandmother actually taught there, and she taught my dad and his 3 siblings. And it was way out in the country. And when school districts got consolidated in my state, that those school buildings were turned into homes. So anyway, it was about 120 years old whenever we lived in it.
Wow.
So it's probably about 500 years old now. But anyway, I walked out of my room and I remember specifically it was the afternoon because it was really well lighted. And there was a hallway right across from my bedroom door, and we had bookshelves lining the walls. And I went to get a World Book Encyclopedia, most probably the D for dinosaurs. That's what I was interested in. But when I walked into the hallway, all of a sudden I noticed there was a little boy standing there. And he was about 6 years old, 5, 6, something like that. He had brown hair that was parted on one side, He was wearing a blue flannel shirt and blue jeans. And I have no idea what he wore on his feet because I didn't get that far because I could see a bookshelf through him. And we just stood there and stared at each other. I was, kind of in shock. I didn't know what was going on. And then he blinked. And it could have been 5 seconds. It could have been 30. I have no idea.
Right.
But when the apparition blinked, I got a hold of myself, turned around, walked into my bedroom, shut my door, and didn't talk to anybody about this for 30 years.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
So would your assessment be that he saw you too?
So, well, yeah, we were eyeballed out, looking at each other. So yeah, he knew I was there, and I obviously, of course, knew he was there.
Did he seem shocked? I mean, this was the first time you'd ever seen anything in the house. So
that's the first time me or anybody else in the house saw anything.
Wow.
I talked to my mom and one of my sisters. My other sisters passed away. PSA: don't smoke. That's what happened to my other sister. But my dad had passed away as well, so I didn't get to ask him when I finally got around to talking about it. They might have seen something, I don't know, but out of the other two members of my family, it was just me. Now, we had, of course, heard creaks and things that sounded like footsteps.
Sure.
Sure.
And of course, Mom and Dad, when I was little, were always like, it's the house settling. And the older I got, I was thinking, this house is 120 plus years old. I think it's probably settled as much as it's going to.
Exactly. So did this sort of kind of make your love of the paranormal, cryptozoology, all of that stuff sort of flourish? Is that sort of what kicked it off?
It's part of what did it. I mean, I was a weird kid.
Mm-hmm.
The Planet of the Apes movies when I was a kid were that was my bread and butter right there. That and Star Trek. I loved that stuff. We had a station, an independent station on Saturdays. They would show old monster movies all day.
Right.
And I would watch them as much as I possibly could. When the Scholastic Book Club order form came in, my buddies were getting biographies of like baseball players and Abraham Lincoln, and I was getting books on, the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot.
Yep.
So I always had that interest, but this hit really close to home. I almost said it was home. That made me realize that there actually was something out there beyond what, normal people talk about. Mm-hmm. That and the fact that when I was a kid, I was always a voracious reader. And when I was a kid, there were reports in the newspaper, in the local big city newspaper, which was the Kansas City Star, about Bigfoot encounters in Louisiana, Missouri. And that, along with the ghost at about the same time, really hit me hard because I saw the ghost, and then the newspaper was reporting on Bigfoot sightings. I mean, it was the newspaper. It got me really excited. So all of this stuff combined, put it in a food processor and, pour it in my brain. This all was part of my, got my interest all fired up.
So you had mentioned that you didn't mention it for a number of years that you had this experience. How did you process that? Obviously, you're a young man. Who do you talk to about it? Who do you get, who do you share that interest with in your life in order to continue learning more and experiencing more?
When it took a while, because I remember as a kid, me and my friends on a sleepover would be up in the middle of the night talking and we'd talk about spooky things. And I remember mentioning that once and everybody just kind of brushing it off. So mm-hmm. I didn't really want to talk to them about it. And it wasn't until I was quite a bit older in college and met some like-minded people that we started talking about paranormal things, ghosts and cryptids and UFOs and such.
So when did you decide, okay, I have to start writing a book? I have to write
right?
a book about this. Was there a aha moment where you said, I need to be an author. I need to share this?
Well, when I graduated from college, I majored in mass media, mass communication, And the first media job I could find was at a newspaper. And I worked in newspapers for 17 years. And working in journalism is both the worst profession to work in for an author, but at the same time, the best profession to work in as an author. The worst is the fact that when I got home at night, I didn't have any energy to write anymore or edit anymore. I was wiped out. But during my day job, my writing improved so much. So when I stopped being a newspaper person, a print journalist, and started teaching journalism, I had the time to start writing. I'd always wanted to write. I remember when I was 10 years old, I told my folks, when I grow up, I want to be a writer. And they, patted the top of my head and told me that was adorable and sent me off into my room.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I always had that. I always knew I wanted to do that. I just had to figure out what I wanted to do between that moment and when it actually happened. And I got my first book published in 2005, and my 16th one just came out 2 weeks ago.
That's unbelievable.
Wow.
What was your first book?
It was a book of, it was called On Being Dad. I love being a parent.
Yeah.
Kids are amazing. I absolutely love them. They make me rip my hair out. Well, that's not true. They make my hair fall out. Yeah. But I wrote a bunch of humor essays on being a parent. And that was my very first one. My second book was called Haunted Missouri. So there we go. There's my first paranormal book. I'd read a number of ghost books throughout the years, and they were fun, but most of them were about private residences that were haunted. And, I wanted to write a book like that. I wanted to explore my state and come up with some great haunted stories, but I didn't want the readers to not be able to go there. And I didn't want somebody's house, at 3:00 in the morning, there's somebody peeking in the window. I didn't want that to happen.
Right.
So I wrote basically what was a haunted tour book of my home state. And every place that I wrote about is accessible to the public.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I'm one of those people that when I travel, I have to go to haunted places. We have to stay in haunted hotels. We have to go to the haunted this and the haunted that and this cemetery and that cemetery. So I love books that do something like that and actually give you the stories and the situations and tell you, hey, you can go here too, and you might experience something.
It's almost like having a handbook for the area, like a special kind of map of the state. I mean, really, that's how I kind of got involved too, is finding those books in the states that I live and all that, and then actually going and experiencing it. So you're right. It's nice to have those things, and the fact that you wrote that for people to actually go experience it is awesome.
Right. And I got a lot of great feedback on that. And one of the best feedbacks is I got an email from a lady who said, I loaned your book out. I bought your book and loaned it to a relative and they never returned it. I'm getting married and I want to get married at this spot that you wrote about in your book. At the end of every chapter, I left directions. There was an address and directions. And she's like, could you please tell me the directions to this spot? Because my fiance and I want to get married there. So I told her how to get there.
So do you know, was there an actual wedding on the location?
I don't know. I hope there was.
I know. Let's hope so.
Yeah.
That's great.
He's a matchmaker too. Who knew that he could do that kind of stuff?
Who knew?
So
let's... Oh,
I was just going to ask you, so for me, obviously my interest starts with ghosts and all that kind of stuff because of stuff that happened in my childhood. But for me, taking that leap between ghosts and aliens, cryptids and all that kind of stuff, I mean, to me, those are additional leaps to have to take. So how do you then make those leaps into other areas of stuff that everyday people don't necessarily talk about, everyday people don't necessarily believe in?
Yeah, that's a great question. It really depends on the person. For me, I go between looking at things scientifically, and looking at things, with a child's, imagination. When it comes to things like UFOs, one of my favorite quotes, it wasn't by Carl Sagan. He said it, but somebody else said it before him, and he was paraphrasing. I just don't remember the first person who said its name. But looking at the wide universe, if we are the only intelligent life out there, what a waste of space.
There you
Yeah.
go. Yep.
Yeah,
That's so true.
and looking at all the statistics about, all the stars out there and all the planets that are probably around those, and all the ones in the Goldilocks zone that would be able to have life, and the percentage that could be intelligent life. There's probably intelligent life everywhere, or at least was at some point.
Right.
So looking at it scientifically, yes, there's got to be life everywhere in the universe. But with the Fermi paradox, if there's life everywhere, where is everybody? There's so many reports of UFOs. I mean, I had a sighting when I was younger. So many people have. A lot of them are explainable. A lot of them aren't.
Right.
One of the things that frustrates me is to hear scientists, and I believe Neil deGrasse Tyson has said this also, is that if there is a civilization out there, they are so far away they can't come here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is so limited, because that's using our physics, our science.
Right.
Right.
That's like saying, yeah, we can't cross this ocean.
Right.
Well, people figured out how to do it, and I'm assuming if there's 20 light years away, maybe that civilization figured out how to traverse that space in a very short period of time. So I view a lot of different paranormal aspects as absolutely scientifically explainable. The trend right now is to go away from nuts and bolts craft. And because people are speculating, well, since they can't get here, maybe they're interdimensional, maybe they're from the future. And I think, nuts and bolts craft makes a lot more sense to me than interdimensional or from the future. It's like also with Bigfoot, the theme for the past few years has been Bigfoot's an interdimensional creature. He has to be, because he disappears. Lots of animals in the woods disappear, no matter how big they are.
It's true.
It's just what they do. It's a survival instinct. So I'm more on the flesh and blood Bigfoot, which makes a lot of sense to me, and I think that's a lot more explainable than interdimensional Bigfoot.
Right.
So yeah, I look at things maybe more simplistically than other people, but a lot of times I think the more simple answer, the more logical answer is the right one.
I have to ask you this too. How much do you think that the government truly knows about what's going on?
And of course, I don't have anything to base this on except for my opinion.
Right.
And I think the government has to know more than what they're leading on. I was so shocked when the New York Times came out with the Navy's sightings.
Yeah.
Of the Tic Tac UFO, and then there were a couple of more sightings. If the Navy had those 3 videos for those years, they've had more.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, there are more out there, not just the Navy. I'm sure the Army and Marines and Air Force especially, they have more. But we've been told that, yeah, we don't know what these are. From an official government source. So it seems to me that at this point, I'm again just speculating that maybe it's gotten to the level to where it's going to be out, and the government's trying to trickle information out for us to be able to swallow.
Yeah, trying to control it at least a little bit. I was like you when they first said, well, here's what we've got. There is something going on. I'm like, well, here we go. Now, at some point, the floodgates have to open, even if it's just a creak, to let some of that information out. Because once you say that, I mean, to me, that just means the possibilities not only of aliens and UFOs, but everything else. It opens the door to go, well, you may not believe in it, but, it's a possibility.
Right.
Right. And as a journalist, the fact that it was the New York Times, if it was the Detroit Free Press, if it was the Denver Post or the Dallas Morning News or the Kansas City Star, not taking anything away from any of those papers.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But it was the Gray Lady. The New York Times, that is the paper of record in this country. And the fact that they treated that subject seriously, that meant a lot.
Yeah, agreed. I think that the whole consensus over the years has been that the government does know a lot and has had firsthand experiences with everything, but the idea is that they were afraid that everyone would panic. But I think as time changes and the years go on, I think we're all a little bit smarter when it comes to this stuff. I mean, it's out there. We know that we can turn on the television and watch a show. We can watch a documentary of people who have had these experiences. And I think that at some point, the government has to allow that trickle to open a little bit more and a little bit more, because I don't think they'll have a choice at some point in time. We're not stupid.
I think maybe that's what they were worried about and trickled some information out to the New York Times. I don't remember the name of the study, but what you're talking about, there was a government study done in the 50s or 60s, and they came to the conclusion that if information on extraterrestrials visiting Earth was released, religion would be thrown out the door. Right. Government would be in a panic. People would just freak out.
I mean, look at Roswell.
Even if that was the case back then, which I doubt, I don't. It's not the case now.
I mean, look at Roswell. Roswell was the most ridiculously handled incident. Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous. And the excuses that they gave for what happened, I mean, yeah, it was the 40s, but come on. I mean, it was ridiculous. And do they really expect people to not know that something happened? It just blows my mind to look back on it.
Well, the thing about the Roswell explanations, they came out over 3 different decades and gave 3 different explanations,
right?
None of which made sense. I mean, if they just wanted this thing to lay to rest, they would have said it was a weather balloon, period. We're not going to say anything more about it. Boom.
Yeah, move on.
They kept coming back, trying to explain it away, right. and dug a deeper hole each time they tried.
Yeah, poorly handled.
I think it's kind of interesting though, because something you had said about how it would throw religion out. That, I mean, it does have far-reaching consequences for this stuff to come out, because it does change a lot of the way everyday people may think. You look back to the radio play War of the Worlds, and people going crazy about this radio play back in I think the 40s or something like that.
It was October 30th, 1938.
Well, there you go, 1938. And I'm a radio guy, and I don't even know the exact date, and you do. But Well,
I teach intro to mass media at my university, and I play it for my kids to listen to, and yeah, it was 1938.
And you look at the way some people who are listening to this radio play reacted to that. But your point that, they're worried about, far-reaching changes to people's lives because of this information. For some people, I think that seems kind of ridiculous, but I would understand that there might be some people that go, well, what about religion? What about God? What about all this stuff? Everything we thought was real, now we're finding something else out. So you can almost kind of understand that thought process.
Well, I can, but I grew up in it was the Methodist Church. We're like the laid back grape juice guys. We're really laid back. But I've always viewed extraterrestrials as having nothing to do with disproving religion.
Right.
Matter of fact, let me quote the Bible. No, I'm not going to quote the Bible, but because I don't know the words exactly. But Jesus said something like, "My Father, houses has many rooms," or "My Father has many houses," something like that. You can interpret that as, there's lots of planets out there with more people on them. So
exactly.
Yeah, right. I don't see the fact that there are people possibly, which I think there are, living out there somewhere or something living out there. I don't view that as against religion whatsoever.
I don't think, and again, I agree with you on that. I don't think it does, but I think that there are people within the religious mindset who would think otherwise, because I think there's a certain amount of control there. And so while you and I might look at the Bible verse and all this information as, well, this can all go hand in hand. It makes sense that it could. I think there's a lot of people, and you talk about government, I think there's that control factor is then taken away from certain individuals, and people can make up their own mind. And oh my gosh, can you imagine people making up their own decisions on stuff? That'd be crazy.
Right. Well, but that's the way humans work. Right. Go back to the 1450s when Johann Gutenberg, invented the movable type press. The church and the government, which was the monarchy, were furious because it changed the way society looked at both of them.
Yeah.
So the people in control, they don't want anything to change because that threatens them. So I completely understand that, and I see, as soon. And I'm not nearly the first person to say this, but as soon as we all as a people worldwide realize that there's somebody up there flying around that may be more technologically advanced than us, we're not America, Russia, China, Australia, Brazil. We're Earth.
We're the world. Exactly.
Right. And that is going to turn everybody's life upside down.
And the truth. Love is all we need. We are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving.
What perfect timing, too, with the Ukraine-Russia standoff and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. But no, I totally agree with you. I think post UFO alien epiphany time, I think that the world would indeed change so much and be so different. And would it be a bad thing?
Probably not. Look at, you mentioned the Ukraine. Okay, let's see. Okay, Joe Biden has said that we might send 5,000 troops over. So let's look at this. We've got the Ukraine. We've got their troops. We've got our troops. We got Russia coming in. Who knows how many other countries are going to send troops? And we're all there in the Ukraine waiting to duke it out. And all of a sudden, one of the big ships from Independence Day sits right on the top of it. What's going to happen? We're all going to go home.
Right.
Nobody's going to shoot at anybody.
Nope.
No, we're going to
be a whole different story.
It's going to be a whole different story.
Yeah. Yeah. The thought of it kind of excites me because I had an experience too when I was a teenager. I had a UFO experience, and I did a little research and come to find out there were other sightings, the same kind of thing as mine, spanning about 10 years before and after my sighting. And I grew up thinking I was the only one who saw this. I didn't look until I was an adult. And as a matter of fact, in that same span of time, a crop circle was actually found about 10 miles from my house. And part of me would be so excited to be able to say, to people who doubt it. I'm so open-minded. And I do believe that we can't possibly be the only planet, the only chunk of rock out there anywhere that the conditions were that perfect to create human beings, and there's no other piece of rock anywhere out there that wasn't the same as us. I just can't bring myself to think that we are that egotistical that we wouldn't believe that it's possible. So part of me would be very excited to finally get that aha moment of, yeah, there really is life out there.
Right. I know that. I'm waiting for. I've been waiting for it my whole life, frankly. But I'm not beyond, not having, who's to say, that Earth or that life originated here independently. I think panspermia makes a lot of sense. Our life coming here from somewhere else in a meteor or a comet or something, and it taking root and growing, and here we are.
Sure.
That could have happened everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
And there's part of that woo-woo movement now where that is part of the belief system that we are actually star beings and we came to Earth from other places. And that's how, life here on Earth began.
This is the Sandy and Toddcast.
So there you go. Part 1 of our time with Jason Offutt. We'll be pivoting in the next podcast, still with Jason, but kind of turning the corner a little bit, talking more about his books and some of the stuff that he's written and being a writer and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And the best thing about it is he is so well-rounded and he has thoughts and ideas and opinions on everything. And in part 2, we're going to get more into the cryptozoology side of everything and all of these legends and lores that go on, especially in the United States, but in South America as well. There's a lot of different creatures and legends that come out of South America. So very interesting part 2 coming your way.
Can't wait for it. And we got to have a live cast with him when we're back to doing live casts, which I think we're getting to the point where I'm healing up enough that I might be able to do a live cast sometime this month.
Yeah,
so.
hopefully that would be really cool because I'd love to have him on and let everybody actually experience him full bore with the live cast and everything too.
Yeah.
So, and I'm glad that you're doing better too. It makes me feel good. So that'll work. That works for me. And let's just mention really quickly about this little project that you and I have both taken on recently. We decided here, let me go back really quickly to about a year ago. And I really wanted, because we're both paranormal investigators, I really wanted my own SLS camera like you've seen on all the shows, Ghost Adventures especially. I know Kindred Spirits uses them.
They're the ones that show the stick figures if there's an anomaly in what they're looking at.
Exactly. And the SLS cameras actually pick up movements and changes in the air that indicate a figure, an entity that we normally wouldn't see. And I've wanted one forever. Well, I looked online, they're about $700. And I don't really want to spend, I'll spend $100, I'll spend $150. I think I've gone up to $200, but I don't really want to spend $700 on an SLS camera. So it got me thinking, let me Google how to make your own SLS camera. And would you know, sure enough, Todd, there were some videos on how to make your own SLS camera.
Of course.
And it actually involves using, I think it's SBox 4's, the Connect camera.
Yeah.
Because they have the virtual reality and the movements. And you can use one of those, the Connects, from an SBox 4. And you just need a whole bunch of different cords and different attachments. And I'm not techie. So I bought everything I needed. I decided, okay, I have a laptop. You download software. The whole thing came to about $50. And finally, about a month ago, I sat down with Dave and we went through it. We downloaded all the software onto my extra work laptop and we put everything together. And wouldn't you know, we now have an SLS camera.
I love it.
And it cost about $50.
My favorite part of your SLS camera. Well, two things. First of all, you said I'm not very techy, and I'm thinking, yeah, if you made the SLS camera the way you could make an SLS camera without any help, it'd be two tomato cans connected with a string. That would be your SLS camera. And
That's why I needed to Google.
And even that would not be working properly.
Well, I will say, though, that I'm really proud of myself, Todd, because
I'm proud of you, too.
I figured out what chords I needed, what inputs. I figured everything out. I just needed help in, making sure that everything went together.
I'm really proud of you for that.
Thank you. That means a lot.
And the other thing,
really worked hard.
the other thing I loved about it was the video that you used to test it out, which is you made Dave stand a length away from you and then made him dance. Wait, you said have Dave do.
Oh, did I?
Did you? Yeah, you said have Dave do some sort of dance.
Soft shoe or something like that? I don't remember.
Yeah, soft shoe. I go, Dave, just go over there. We turn the lights off. I go over there, and Todd wants you to do a soft shoe. So, of course, Dave gets up and goes and does a soft shoe. And I sent you the video, and it was great, but it was so cool. And as a matter of fact, it actually detected something in my living room.
Yeah, no, I don't want that. See?
And I asked whatever I asked. I said, can you raise your hand? And it raised its hand. And so, you're always telling me, all of the mediums, all of the psychics I know are always telling me that they come to me because I have abilities. So there you go. You have your proof. There was something in my house that actually literally raised its hand when I asked it to.
That's freaky. But add the soft shoe to the Poor David podcast. We'll add that in as one of the items we'll talk about on that poor man.
But then you're in the process of putting your own together.
Yep. And I'm excited about it. It's very close to being done. And I've definitely got some help with mine. And actually bought 2 of those Connect cameras just because at some point, somewhere down the road, they'll go out and who knows how long you'll be able to get them on the market and all that kind of stuff. So I think the whole thing with a used Windows pad kind of thing and the used camera and a little, it almost looks like a pistol gun that you mount it on with all that. It's, about $100 with all the cords and adding the battery onto it so that it can be mobile and all that kind of stuff. So
it's fantastic. And right now I'm using my laptop for investigations. We have an investigation this coming Saturday at an old house, an 1800s house. So right now I'm using the laptop, but my goal is eventually to have a second one for Dave's iPad so that we can be a little bit more mobile too. So it'll be cool. When we come out in June, I'd love to be able to get in somewhere and see if we can use it together and kind of play around with that too. So that'll be cool.
So what's the thing, the Harmonizer, what's that called? The, it's kind of like a ghost box, but it uses the weird, Steve Shippey uses one all the time.
The Geoport.
Yes.
Yeah,
that is
I've
the
always
next,
wanted a Geoport.
That's the next thing that's being built because apparently you can do that relatively cheaply too. And those are, again, very expensive, like $1,000 for one of those.
Yeah, they're expensive. Cindy Kaza and Steve Shippey use it on a lot of their documentaries. They did the Ed Gein one. They used it right on the property on the Ed Gein one. And they used it for the most recent one they did, the Scream one. So... that's my next goal. I'd love to get one. Whoever gets one first will, when you come out here, we'll use it, or when I get out there, we'll use it. So let's see what we can do with it. I just love trying to make our own stuff. I don't see the reason why we need to. I mean, there's certain things like IR lights and stuff that I've bought that, or I have a couple of spirit boxes and things like that. But there's certain things that I don't believe you have to spend all that money to do. There's got to be a way around it. People way more techie than you and I are dumbing it down for us and making it a lot easier.
Yeah,
so.
Thank goodness. Because I mean, it needs to be dumbed down for me, but certainly for you to the lowest levels of dumb.
You know what would be best if they just do it for me? If I could just send them the stuff and they could just do it for me.
Exactly. Well, again, we've got another episode coming next week. That'll be part 2 of Jason. Can't wait for that. In the meantime, join us on Facebook and we're on Twitter. And you can reach out to us that way anyway.
Yeah. Reach out to us, email us. All of this will be in the show notes. I'm also going to put up a couple of links to how-to videos for the SLS camera in case anybody's interested in doing their own. I think it's pretty neat, easy, and cheap. Excellent. So I'll put that up and just make sure you leave us a review, guys, and let everybody know how much you love us. That way we kind of hop to the top of the list, and more people get to know about us. So,
Excellent. All right. Until next time, it's the Sandy and Toddcast. Bye.
bye.